He said he was taking a break.
When do you get out? Do you get out at the top? Do you ride your fall down? Because you never know.
It depends on.
You could quit and not be anywhere near your top.
You can stay, though.
This circles back around to the type of content you're making and how admirable it is and how much you like it. You know, like when do you get out? Well, if you're making weird kid videos and you
don't enjoy it,
don't enjoy it, and you're not even yourself, and it's just all like for money, I'd say you get out when you can. Like when you get out when
like
the money.
Logan Paul, he might not be as relevant or as popular as he was at his peak, but I bet you he'll be able to post a video and still at least pull 1 million views because people care, and also people just don't.
And he's an example.
As long as the video's still good, like as long as you can keep making like pretty decent, entertaining videos, people will continue to follow along. It's like I would be interested to listen to a podcast. I was thinking about this before this. I was like, man, Bam Margera there's really no interviews. There's really no way to really see or hear. Like he's only done a couple podcasts, and I've listened to both of them, and I was very entertained by it because as a kid, for some reason, I idolized Bam because he was so cool on his show. Obviously, nowadays, you probably don't want to. But, think about that. You know, realistically, he could probably pop out, and I guarantee you he would be able to pull a decent, just because he has such a large fan base of people who are just genuinely interested in him.
Yeah, but then you always have to be doing something entertaining, which is exhausting.
It is.
And you always have to be making good videos because otherwise somebody watches a video and it's shit. They're like
kind of turned off.
This guy isn't a legend anymore.
Yeah,
true. I don't know. I think there's a line like.
Well, there's like specifics. I think like for someone,
I agree.
I guess to just dive a little deeper into it, for someone like Bam Margera, if you were famous on TV at that time, then I think the least you could do is a podcast. And if you don't want to do that, that's okay. But I think,
Dude,
if
there's
you
so many people that would want
said,
Bam to come on.
Let me tell you a
podcast.
story about these 2 episodes, and then next week I'll tell you a story about these 2 episodes. I'd listen to it because it'd be fun. Just telling stories, which is
like
a
think
beautiful
about,
thing that
let's
you can
say
make
Hulk
money on
Hogan, dude. If Hulk Hogan started a podcast or he hopped on a podcast, a lot of people would listen. A lot of people, even I would. I'm not like. I didn't even really grow up in the era of him wrestling and watching him, but it'd just be entertaining and interesting. A lot of people, especially if you were in the media like pretty heavily at one point, and then now no one has any access or insight to what you're doing, people were interested. Only with certain people.
I
Only
disagree.
with certain people.
I disagree because I think so many people see that, especially with podcasts. Now it's like everyone and their cousin has a podcast. For us, makes sense. We're content creators. It's for us. But people that have just like not done anything for 5 years, or they like kind of got like washed.
I'm
like
saying
quit making YouTube
Hulk Hogan
videos.
Goes on Joe Rogan's podcast, it's gonna blow up. That one would be a blow up.
It's different than if just Hulk Hogan started his own podcast.
Yeah, I mean,
because there's so many people I think that just start podcasts now just because it's like the
thing to do.
The thing to do with a trendy thing to do.
They think it's gonna be easy.
They think it's easy. It's like, hey, you can just use your fame and likeness, and like you'll get views.
It's hard. You gotta come out here and drink an energy drink, maybe 2,
and then you gotta sit down and talk to your friends
like
and
if they were a celebrity before, like basically a producer comes to them and then they put the team together and they just show up and they'll have like talking points and stuff like. No shade towards Mike Tyson, but that's totally the deal with them. Like he has a crew that came and they're like, hey, we got an idea that can make you some money. All you got to do is sit in and talk. Yeah. It's a podcast. And then they got all the equipment. They got the camera. They hired everyone, hired the editors. They produced the whole thing, come up with talking points, get the ads, all that. Mike shows up like and talks to people. Like that's a pretty common thing nowadays. True. It goes back to like kind of what I was saying earlier. Like you look at people that are starting these that are running these things in the back end.
The only problem with that is you can do something and survive on it, or you can reinvent it and grow larger from it.
Yeah.
Like I'm going to use Logan Paul as an example. He started out and he could have done a podcast and rode out his level of fame and just dwindled off till nobody cared about him and then be done. But he reinvented a podcast. He made it entertaining to watch. He gained a new audience, myself included, gained a new audience, and then also along the way goes, all right, I've been podcasting for a few years now. We're good. I'm going to get into boxing. Maybe he might be chasing passions, but these passions are calculated. He goes into boxing, ups his fame
I think he was
again.
doing the boxing before the podcast. Well, he started his first boxing, but then he launched the podcast. But yeah, he was.
That's what I mean.
He kept growing it.
He
yeah.
kept growing. He could have came on and
didn't
went,
mean
all
that.
right, me and my 6 buddies that live in this house, we're just going to talk. I'm going to pay the bills for a while, be done. But he came in, and he reinvented, and he constantly wanted to grow. And I think that's what makes it good. We didn't listen to it and go, yeah, those 20 podcasts were cool, but just kind of got over it, or nothing new happened. And then it went.
I think that is the big takeaway from content today is reinventing.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll even say this, like if you were a big movie star and then let's say you even started YouTubing and it went well and you reinvented once and then you could even die from that. And if you reinvent again, and obviously it goes well because a lot of times it doesn't, you can come back from that. Like you can, in a sense, reinvent yourself as many times as
you can come up
mass
with good
will
reinventions.
let you, as many times as you can pop off, like YouTube and social media will let you.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's not always, sometimes maybe you might reinvent yourself for the worse or the better, but like you can always reinvent as long as it's something fresh and entertaining. It just blows my mind and it's so hard. And sometimes when people are like, how'd you make it on YouTube? I'm like, dude, we just got lucky, man. I mean, I'm talking like right away, like before we put thought and a ton of work into it or enough work to make it equal a full-time job. It's like we just got lucky, things.
Yeah, but you gotta work hard till you get lucky. You gotta take risks.
Yeah.
So you get risks and chances.
Take risks for
Take
sure.
risk.
And then once you get lucky, the hardest part is actually doing something with it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
exactly. That's what I mean. You get to the level, and you gotta do something.
You gotta actually harder than like getting there is maintaining it. Honestly,
The
that's kind of
harder
enough
you
on
work, the luckier you get. CJ's got that hanging up on his wall.
I totally agree.